What's up, guys? So, Joe Frankenstein Part 2. Another collaboration between Graham Nolan and Chuck Dixon. Excellent pairing here. Um, I'm going to just flat out say, really, really like this book series so far. Um, I, I, I summed up the first one as saying, fun, right? Yep, second one's also a lot of fun. Uh, and if you guys really like monsters, like some of the old monster films, whether it be, the old Universal films or the Hammer films, or even things like Godzilla, or, just monsters. Uh, you should really like this book. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, so far we don't have a big old kaiju like Godzilla. Um, I'm just using that as an example. If you like monsters, you should like this book. So I'm just going to get right into it, and we'll see what's so great about this one. So we pick right up where we left off in book one. Uh, Joe and the creation need to go find Sky, but in order to do so, they need to know where the bride is located. So they speak with Igor, and find that the bride is located in Manhattan. And so that seems like, oh, okay, she wants us to follow her. She made it very easy for us to figure out where she's at. And so while our protagonists are inside trying to devise a plan of attack, we see Lord Golgotha. Public school people, bear with me. Doing the best I can with names. So just going forward, if I fuck a name up, public school, doing the best I can. So we see Lord Golgotha summon a horde of thralls or vampire-like creatures, and they are instructed not to hurt Joe, but to kill everyone else. So Joe's the only one that seems to be needed. Igor immediately alerts everyone of the security breach. So, good on the creation for making sure that he's got enough security protocols to make sure that they're not caught completely off guard here. And he sees all these thralls starting to come up the windmill, and he says, "Okay, well, bye, Joe. You got to go in the elevator. Get out of here." And he fights off the basically the army of thralls that's approaching. And just when the elevator door opens, they're already on the inside. Joe's automatically attacked, and Enoch just vaporizes them with the UV pulse rifle, which, hey, handy as hell. So more thralls are coming. Enoch and Joe escape more of them and set off some traps along the way to help thin out the herd here, and make their way to Finnabar and tell them that everyone needs to leave now. Also, Joe is concerned for the creation, and he's like, well, the big guy can handle himself. Now, Finnabar is unable to drive since there's a full moon. Oh, gee, I wonder why. You know. And must ride in the trunk, so then it's up for Joe to drive and get him out to safety. And hey, we learned Finnabar is a werewolf. And once he's in that state, he cannot be reasoned with. He doesn't know friend from foe, and is extremely dangerous. So, meanwhile, while they're on the escape, the big guy, the creation, has been captured and is being escorted underwater to a submarine, and then is transferred over to the bride's Manhattan place and restrained. And his restraints are pretty good for somebody like him. Gotta say, not a bunch of dummies in this comic book. The bride sees that Joe, Enoch, and Finnabar have all breached the building, and pretty happy with the news, so she tells all the surgeons to get ready for the final procedure. and then have Golgotha bring the welcome wagon. So a lot more thralls coming, and then informs the creation of the situation by taunting his ass about it. We cut back to Joe and the crew who are now on an elevator when suddenly it stops, since obviously they're aware that Joe and them are in the building. They're able to monitor their location. So stop the elevator and sent some thralls to go retrieve them. Uh, Finnevar starts to panic because, he's noticing he's starting to transform. So he gets the hell out of the elevator before he can tear up the other two. So now it is up for Enoch and Joe to get out of the elevator and out of the elevator shaft. So up and out they go. And then they do notice that the thralls are starting to close in. Joe is pleading with Enoch and is like, "Hey, dude, you got that cool ass pulse rifle. Can you, take care of some thralls?" And Enoch says, "Hey, I don't have a whole lot of power left with this thing, so I'm gonna save it until shit really hits the fan." And instead tells Joe to dump whatever spare change he might have in his pockets because those vampires are obsessive counters. So, they're sitting there chasing them and see all the change on the floor and like, "Ooh, shit, shiny." So it at least buys them a little bit of time while they count, which I really kind of thought that was funny. So after they ditch the thralls, the two reach the front door of what remains of the Finnebar encounter. And suddenly bullets start just whizzing like right by them. And two armed guards start just shooting at Joe and Enoch before Saxton stops him like, "Dumbass, we fucking need them. Chill out." Joe runs around the corner and is grabbed by Golgotha. Like, dude turns into basically like a dust tornado. So it was kind of cool watching just some arms shoot out of that thing. I really like that. And then Enoch gives him an ultimatum, and he's like, "Release Joe, or I got this can of cedar spray that I'll fuck you up with, dude." Golgotha's like, "All right, I'll just kill Joe," and we see we see him like just suck the life right out of him. It's kind of like that scene in The Last Crusade, where the Nazi dude chose poorly before returning him to normal after Enoch calls his bluff. They're like, "Dumbass, I know you need him. You're not going to kill him. At least not yet." And then, so, with the two being captured, Golgotha says, "Okay, just take him up to the rooftop." So that's where we're headed. On the rooftop, Joe is able to finally see Sky. He's like, "Oh, there she is." She's unconscious and laying on a table, and then sees that the big guy is restrained and acting out of character and kind of sluggish due to the, quote, "generous amounts of blood donated." Donated. So I would be feeling a little out of sorts too. If you've ever donated blood, kind of understand the feeling there. Joe is then strapped down, and the bride kind of reveals what her intentions are with him. He then asks the bride about Sky, who reveals she was actually killed while extracting genetic material because that bitch needed to fix an eye. So yeah, Enoch is then brought in and apologizes to the big guy, who, he kind of shakes it off. He's like, "Hey man, we've been in worse spots. Perhaps you remember Warsaw." So he doesn't seem to be fretting a whole lot. This does actually triggers Enoch's memory, and he whistles for Finnebar, who just comes in and fucks shit up. He comes in, wreaks havoc on everything in the vicinity, and allows Enoch to get free and find a way to give a little bit of a jolt to the creation to get him back into fighting form here. Sensing basically everything went to shit, the bride takes off with the big guy's blood, and Golgotha stops her and reminds her that failure wasn't going to be tolerated, and the blood was never intended for her. And hey, she failed, so he dusted that bitch. You gone. Um, and so, like I said, the creation is brought back and notices that, quote, the divorce is final. I really, I, I really like a lot of the little lines in here. He then frees Joe, and then um, Joe pleads with the creation about getting Sky's body and tracking down Golgotha to restore her life. And the creation just, he's like, fine, he's a little on the reluctant side. He's like, dude, seriously, this chick is getting us in a lot of trouble so far. But he does agree to do that. So closing out our story, we see Finnabar has returned to human form. He's out in the streets, but he's doing fine. So he's getting up, he's getting his bearings together, and he's going to come regroup with the rest of the party. We see Golgotha talking with his master, who's like a bat-like creature. I'm not sure if he's a vampire. I'm assuming so. And he is aware that Joe will want Golgotha for his ability, and he sees that as a way to barter. So interesting to see where that goes. We see Sky's body is placed in like a chamber, like a cryo chamber, while they have her put away somewhere safe to keep her body from deteriorating so they can bring her back. And then finally, we see Saxton on a plane with the box labeled human remains. I wonder whose remains those could be. And that is Joe Frankenstein #2. Like I said, this is probably my favorite series so far that I own. And I mean, I really like a lot of the stuff that I have, but the Joe Frankenstein books are just so much fun. I really enjoy the story. I enjoy the characters. Everybody's interesting. So I'm totally invested into these stories. So, and having Graham and Chuck collaborating on something is just wonderful. So, I just want to kind of touch on some of the new characters, or characters maybe I didn't give a whole lot of attention to last time. First, we have Lord Golgotha, who can summon thralls who are also called like legacy bloodsuckers, which in this book they were calling closer to the source, which after seeing the master of it all, I'm assuming that that's what they mean. That since it's a bat-like creature, that's kind of the source, because these creatures could have some bat-like features in with them. But he answers to his master, not to the bride. Basically, he looks at those two as more of a even playing field, if not him just a little above her as far as who gives out the orders. He will tolerate her, but he does not answer to her. We have Enoch, who's the brains man. He's the guy that builds the shit. He's the one that he created Igor, and created some of the other tech like the UV pulse rifle. That's all him. So very, very smart individual. And then we got old Finnabar. We met him briefly in the first one. He more or less was just a limo driver, but we find that he is a ruthless werewolf, and he will get to business. If basically you just kind of have to point him in a direction, like, here, go fuck that up. Don't over here. Don't worry about us. Just go take care of that. So he's just basically an agent of chaos, and I had a lot of fun with him. So some of the things that I really liked, some of the things maybe I thought could have been adjusted a little bit. Really like the expansion of the world. Like I was saying just a moment ago, Finnebar was simply a limo driver in the first one. Now, we find that he is in fact a werewolf, and he had a much larger role. Um, we see more from Enoch and all the cool gadgets that he'll have. And I really liked, you know, Golgotha. Uh, as much as I'm over here just riding the struggle bus saying the man's name, I find him just an absolutely just awesome foe. Um, he really looks like he's going to be somebody very difficult to get rid of. I'm curious. We saw that he's got a weakness to cedar, so I'm sure that that'll play some sort of role in defeating him. Um, and then I want to know, how powerful is the master if somebody is, as strong and powerful as Golgotha? How how much stronger is that their master there? You know, I'm very curious. So one of the other things that I really liked in this um, is the humor. There's like a little segment while the bride is in there trying to generate enough power for her procedure. Well, it knocks the power out for the other tenants in this building, and all the wives send out the husbands to go, you know, go bitch out the landlord, who's the bride. And it was a lot of fun watching them confront Saxton, who answers the door, and he opens the door, and there's a bunch of thralls, and they're like, nah, actually, I'm good. And then um, that's when Finnebar shows up and starts up his shit. And they were like, complaint withdrawn, like, just got the hell out of there. They're like, it ain't worth all this. I'll just go downstairs and sit in the dark. So I was really enjoying a lot of that, and some of the things with Enoch too, like when they came to the windmill in the beginning. Um, uh, Enoch understood the correlation between the movies and what the creation decided to do, and Enoch's like, yeah, no, he never saw the movies. He got the references, but yeah, the humor I did find was right up my alley. So really, the only thing that I noticed that was kind of odd was when Finnebar transformed that second time around. There was no full moon that he could see. They were in an elevator shaft. Now he did bring up time, so I'm wondering if like certain times of the day work, but then it kind of brings up the gremlins problem of what time zone, like all these other things. So I guess the only thing I would maybe have had adjusted was maybe this, the bride, I would imagine, be staying at a real fancy apartment complex, right? So maybe have one of those like elevator shafts that are on the outside of the building where he could have caught a glimpse there. Because the way that everything else worked out, I think would have still played out just fine. So just simply going from an inside elevator shaft to one that's on the outside where he can get a view of the moon would have played pretty good there. But that's really about it. So, like I said, definitely recommend, especially if you're a fan of the monsters. Um, this is just like a love letter to like the old monster films, and just having a lot of fun with them. So I definitely recommend it to everybody. Even if you just want to even dip your toe into like the monster area, this is well worth it. This is certainly a good place to start in if you're not sure. Get Joe Frankenstein 1 and then continue on with this one if that really did it for you. Um, and I'll put in the description where you can buy this. Uh, so yeah, absolutely fantastic job with this. Definitely recommend. Thumbs up. And like I said, this is arguably my favorite comic series that I have currently. So I'm definitely invested and want more of this. So, but that's all we got for today, guys. So I thank you for sticking around and checking out my video. Until next time, take care and God bless.